Everybody learned to repeat the name. Strait of Hormuz. Almost nobody learned to see what it hides. When this name returns to the news, the image shrinks. It becomes reduced to routes, calculations, tension, passage. The map takes over everything. The territory disappears. In the previous episode, we followed the Omanite edge of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the crossing takes us to the other side, to an island that never appears when this name dominates the news. Qeshm, located south of the Iranian coast. In the Strait of Hormuz, Qeshm is separated from the mainland by the Quran Strait. It is about 136 kilometers long, about 1,500 square kilometers in area, becoming the largest island in Iran. This erasure says a lot. Qeshm is not a detail alongside a famous route. It is not a secondary stage of a region supposedly larger than itself. It is a vast island, harsh, jagged, made of salt, canyons, coastal villages and surfaces marked by slow and continuous wear. When the world rushes to talk about the strait, there is almost never room for this hard ground. Irregular. What matters here is changing the focus. Instead of looking at this part of the world as a passage between shores, look at the island itself. Instead of repeating a known name, face what that name ended up covering. Qeshm does not need exaggeration. It just needs to be seen with attention. On this island, the rock does not serve as a background. Salt does not enter as a detail. The wind does not act as a simple atmosphere. Everything participates in the shape of the place. Everything interferes with the way the island was occupied, read, and transformed over time. The Strait of Hormuz remains in the title, but the axis is now different. What matters is the island that stayed behind the name. This video is not about politics. It is not an analysis of conflict, nor a defense of any side. It is an attempt to see what exists when the news stops talking. Because when the news stops talking, what remains is land. Rock formed 25 million years ago by the collision between two plates that support entire continents. Salt slowly pushed to the surface over eras. Communities that build boats without using a single blueprint. Only the memory passed from father to son for 400 years. The question that guides what follows is different. What exists here that will continue to exist when the next cycle of tension ends? Qeshm has the shape of an arrow pointing toward the continent, 136 kilometers long, 40 kilometers at its widest part. In some spots, less than 10 kilometers from coast to coast. It is not just an island. It is a territory with its own weight and variety. This form came from a process that began 25 million years ago, when two massive plates, the Arabian and the Eurasian, began to press against each other. This collision folded and stacked layers of rock that today form the Zagros mountain range, spanning 1,800 kilometers. Qeshm is the southernmost point of this range, and the pressure continues. The subsoil still moves, slowly, imperceptibly to those passing through, but measurably for those who track it. The island has 148,000 inhabitants in 59 villages. Most speak Bandari, a dialect that mixes Persian with words from Arabic, Portuguese, and African languages. Each one arrived by ship over centuries of trade. The Portuguese built a fort here in the 16th century. The British disputed the territory in 1622. Each occupation left a layer. This accumulation is still present today. The Valley of Stars. Dare-Setaragan, in Persian, is a canyon formed over 2 million years. Rain, wind, and temperature variations wore away alternating layers of hardened sand and clay to produce towers, sloping walls, and corridors that open and close along the path. The softer rock gave way first. The harder one remained standing. The result is a landscape that seems to have been sculpted by a force that follows no known logic. The name comes from what happens at night. Far from the cities, without any light pollution, the sky opens up completely above the valley. The stars multiply. The irregular ground and the full sky close the space in a way that gave rise to the name. The bands of color visible on the walls, white, orange, gray, red, are records of different eras of the earth. Each layer is a distinct time, a climatic condition that existed here long before any human being. The place has not stopped changing. The rock continues to give way. The wind continues to work. About 30 kilometers away, Chaku works differently. The name means Mountain of Wells. It is a vertical cut in the rock. The canyon narrows until sunlight enters only as a thin thread high above. At the bottom, local communities carved holes in the stone to store rainwater. The island receives, on average, 183 millimeters of rain per year, less than many cities receive in a single rainy month. Knowing where the water would stop was not a detail. It was what allowed life here. Namakdan means salt in Persian. And that is exactly what is here. An amount and a depth of salt that most people never imagined could exist in a single place. The Namakdan cave is 6.6 kilometers long and is one of the largest salt caves in the world. It was formed within a massive block of salt that the movement of the plates slowly pushed upward over hundreds of millions of years. The oldest layers are over 541 million years old. Before any dinosaur, before any flowering plant. In 2022, the International Union of Geological Sciences placed the cave on the list of the 100 most important geological heritages on the planet, alongside the Grand Canyon and the Galapagos Islands. Inside the cave, the process has not stopped. Moisture enters through the rock, dissolves the salt, and when the water evaporates, the salt crystallizes again, in new forms, in new places. The galleries change color depending on what is mixed with the salt in each layer. Pure white, orange, red, gray. The internal air is drier and cooler than the air outside. There are historical records of people using this air to treat respiratory problems, long before any scientific name for it. On the northwest coast of Qeshm, there is a village recognized as an Iranian national heritage in 2006. The name is Lafte, and the first thing the gaze finds are towers. Dozens of towers built of stone and clay above the roofs of the houses. Each one of them is a bajir, a Persian word that literally means wind catcher. The bajir is the house's natural ventilation and cooling system. It has existed in Lafte for centuries and works without a motor, without electricity, without any kind of fuel. In a region where the average annual temperature is 27 degrees and summer months reach heat that makes it hard to breathe outdoors. This solution is not an architectural detail. It is what makes the house habitable. A few meters from the port, there is a shipyard where lenja boats are still built. The lenja is the traditional vessel of the Persian Gulf, used for cargo transport, for fishing, and for centuries. For the trade routes that linked Qeshm to India, East Africa, and the Gulf ports. In 2011, UNESCO included the knowledge of building and navigating lenjas on the list of intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding. Most builders who still master this technique are over 60 years old. The knowledge required to make one of these boats is not written down anywhere. In Lafte, there are also the wells of Tala. 366 wells carved into the rock about 2,000 years ago, equal to the number of days in a leap year. Each well had its own name. Less than 100 still exist. Those that remain still hold drinking water by the same method that worked before any plumbing or water pump. They are the most direct answer to a problem that the island has always imposed: where to find water in a place with almost no rain. What Qeshm reveals is not an argument against the Strait of Hormuz. It is an argument about what happens when a name becomes worth more than the place it names. Portuguese, British, Persians. Everyone who passed through here saw the same thing: the strategic position, the maritime corridor. None of them recorded with the same care the 25 million years of geological pressure that formed the island. The wind system that keeps houses habitable without electrical energy. The boats that crossed oceans without GPS, by builders that no one thought to document while there was still time. What exists in Qeshm is not just history. It is an answer. A set of solutions developed over centuries for problems that the rest of the world is starting to face now. Heat that keeps rising. Water that becomes increasingly scarce. Dependence on resources that come from afar. The answers are in the wells carved into the rock, in the towers that cool without electricity, in the boats that crossed oceans without GPS. The name Hormuz will keep returning to the news, and every time that happens, the map will shrink the territory again. The question is not whether this will keep happening. It is what is lost each time it does, and if any part of that can still be recovered before the last person who knows it is gone. If this new perspective on Qeshm made sense to you, subscribe to the channel to follow the next steps of this journey. Our path through this part of the world still has much to reveal, but the crossing doesn't stop here. In the next video, our axis shifts towards Saudi Arabia. We will explore a place that remained closed for over 1,300 years, protected by the fear of a curse. See you there.